Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. As I was at the library the other day gathering up all of the books for our first unit study for the new homeschool year, which starts next week, I thought that it might be a good idea to share with all of you what my plan is for the beginning of the homeschool year. And I use the word plan loosely because you never really know what is going to happen. But I do have the first 4 weeks planned out. I have the unit study chosen that we're going to be doing. So I thought that I would just give you all just like a little peek into the things that I'll be using specifically with the unit study. And hopefully I can even clarify how we do things. Okay, so even though I said that I'm going to be sharing our plan with you, which I will be doing, what I really do want to emphasize today is our unit study, because I know that while I talk about unit studies quite a bit, there are still some people who are new to homeschooling who really aren't sure what unit studies are all about. And so I thought that if I have my whole pile of books here and I already know some of the activities that we're going to be doing, I can give you a better picture of what a unit study will look like in a homeschool. So that is really going to be my focus today, but I will go over quickly with you how I'm hoping our day is going to pan out. Now, there is one change this year that I did mention in another video. Typically, I will break my kids up into 3 separate groups: littles, middles, and teens. What has happened this year, though, is that my second youngest, Summer, she is actually at the age where she can move up to the middles group. And what happened is my 6-year-old, my youngest, Kenzie, she's in the littles by herself, and she's not happy about that. So I am going to try to keep all of my littles and middles in one group together. I should say little because there's only one now. I'm going to try to do a group of 6 all together. Pray for me with that because I'm not sure how it's going to go. But that's the great thing with homeschooling. If something doesn't work, you can just go back to the way that it was, or you can do something else if you have to. But anyway, I'm going to try to just do 2 groups now. Just the one group with all of my non-high schoolers together, and then my teens are going to be separate. And I'm just mainly going to be talking about my elementary and middle school children today because, as I mentioned, they're all going to be learning together. So actually, you know what? Maybe I should mention to you what their grades are going to be this year. Now, first of all, I should point out that most of our curriculum, other than math, doesn't go by grade levels. I don't typically think of grade levels when I teach my kids. The reason that I know what grade levels they're in is because when I file for them at the school district assigns them grade levels according to their age. So that's just the grade level that I will be using today when I tell you what grades they're in. So I have this year a first grader, 3rd, 4th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th, and a 12th grader. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the kids who are in 1st through 8th grade. So we're going to start out our day doing a devotional together using the 1-Minute Bible for Students. And this was actually given to my 12-year-old son as a gift when he started youth group last year from the youth director. And it is a really great devotional. It's not too long, but it really has practical things to talk about with kids, things that really hit them, that really connect with them. And so we're going to continue using this year. And then after we do our devotion in the morning, we go into what I call our soft start. Actually, the devotional is part of the soft start. And that's actually a new term that I've learned. I just used to call it like read aloud time or morning time. But the other day I saw somebody mention soft start and they just described it as a way of transitioning into your homeschool day rather than like diving into all of the hard stuff right away. And that is really what we do. We transition into our day by, like I said, first the devotion and then a read aloud. Now, our unit study this year is on stars, navigation, explorers, and sailing. That is one unit study, and that is what we're going to be focusing on. And so one thing that's really important for me to point out is that other than devotions and what we use for language arts and math, all of the resources that we use will be connected to the unit study, to that topic, explorers, navigation, stars, sailing. So our read aloud for this year, our very first one is going to be Carry On, Mr. Bowditch. And it is about sailing. And we've never read this before, but I'm excited to get into this. I've heard lots of good things about it. So we're going to be reading Carry On, Mr. Bowditch. And yes, we will be doing narration. Now, typically for narration, I will stop after every few pages and I will ask one of my kids to tell me back everything that they remember. Now, if it's not a really, now I do that for each child. So I typically will count how many pages are in the chapter and I try to divide it up evenly between how many kids will be narrating. If we have a shorter chapter though, I will usually just read the whole chapter, and then after the chapter, I will have the kids take turns telling me one thing that they remember from the chapter, and we will just go down the line like that. So yes, we do narration with our read aloud. So after this soft start, we will go into what I call our together time. And this is the time, obviously, that we're all working on our things together, and that is our unit study time. For that, we are going to be using the CONUS curriculum as our main reference for the unit study. That is actually where I'm getting the unit study from, is from this big granddaddy of unit study curriculums. There are so many in here. And so that's where all of the activities are coming from. And that's mainly where I got the book list from for all of the resources that I'll be using to supplement the activities that we're going to be doing. So let me just show you the books that I've gotten to go with our unit study. So the first one that I have, and remember, Navigation, Stars, Sailing, Explorers. I probably keep saying it all in a different order, but it's all the same thing. So the first book that I have here, and these are in no particular order. I don't have them in order of like when we'll be using them or anything. But the first one that I have is Where Am I? The Story of Maps and Navigation. Because as I mentioned, yes, the kids are going to be learning about maps. They're going to be learning about old world maps. They will be learning about navigation. So they'll be learning navigation vocabulary. They'll be watching videos about it. They'll be learning about the history of sailing. And they will be learning about celestial navigation as well. So this book was one of them that was on the list in the CONUS curriculum. Next book that I have here is Explorers of the Americas Before Columbus. So yes, Explorers is a part of this unit study. The very first explorer that we are going to be learning about is Leif Erikson, who was a Viking who discovered Newfoundland. Now, Leif Erikson is not by any means going to be the only explorer that we learn about. We're going to continue learning about explorers after him. However, so far, I only have our first 4 weeks planned out. So it's at the very end of our four weeks. I cannot speak today. It's at the very end of our 4 weeks that I'm going to be getting into Leif Erikson. But I know I'll be getting into Marco Polo and some other people. And so this is going to be a great reference for that. Now, the next one that I have is Find the Constellations. And this one is highly recommended by the authors of CONUS. And, you know, this is one of those books that I think that it was written in the 1950s. And you know what? In this day and age, I prefer older books because a lot of the newer books are rewritten with agendas, which I don't really like. You know, I would want to know the truth. And you know, you can't even guarantee that's what you're getting in this anymore. I don't want to get cynical in this video, so I'm going to stop there. But so Find the Constellations. So my kids are going to be learning, you know, I mentioned celestial navigation, but on top of that, they're going to be learning, you know, how to locate the constellations in the sky, what they look like. They're going to be drawing them. They might be using charcoals to draw them, or maybe some black construction paper with white chalk. We might even go out one night and try to find some constellations in the sky, which to be honest is hard because we live in the city. We don't always have a great view of the stars around here, but we might try that. So those are just some of the activities that we're going to do that have to do with stars. Oh, we're also going to be baking cookies, you know, that are in the shapes of stars and moons and everything. And speaking of the moon, here's another book we're going to be using, The Stars by the same author. We're going to be learning about the phases of the moon as well. And so this is just much of the same. And I really got this as a reference to show my kids what the constellations look like, how to draw them. And we're just going to read these probably as a supplement at some point throughout the day. We don't read supplemental books every single day. The only book that we read every single day for sure, well, two are the devotional and the read aloud. These supplemental books are just when they fit in with the lesson. And a lot of times we will not read the whole book. We will just read the section that is pertinent to what we're learning that day. Another book that I have here is Early Exploration of North America. And that just goes right along with the Explorer lessons. Now this one, I mentioned that we're going to be learning about Leif Erikson, and this is a Daulaire book. And if you guys have seen my other videos, I love Daulaire books. We have Daulaire Greek Myths, and it is just wonderful. The illustrations are beautiful, and just the way that it's written, it just really makes it interesting for the kids. So this is called Leif the Lucky, and we are going to be reading this when we are learning about Leif Erikson. And here's just one example of the illustrations in these Daulaire books. And yes, so my kids are going to be doing things like they're going to be carving out their own Viking ships, maybe out of soap. They're going to be doing paintings of like stormy seas, sometimes finger painting. They might be doing watercolor paintings of different days at sea, depending on the different weather. There are so many aspects of just sailing and navigation, and that's what makes this a unit study, because there are so many things that are encompassed. That's how it's cross-curricular, because you know they're learning about people who explored North America, and they're learning about the stars, they're learning about sailing, they're learning about navigation, they're learning about moon phases. And here's the next book, The Wonderful World of Mathematics. And you might think, well, what does that have to do with any of that? Well, this book actually has some wonderful old world maps in it, and it actually does get into navigation, because this book is about how math is used in practical ways. And I wish I would have marked where it has about navigation in here. Here we go, stars and steering. So we'll be using this when the kids are learning about celestial navigation. And if you notice here, you know, they've got a compass on the cover of this. My kids will be learning how to draw circles with compasses. They will be learning how to measure the angles. They will be learning how you can use those angles when it comes to navigation. It all ties together. And yet another explorer book to go with that. Who Discovered America? And you know, I have to say that I have not read any of these books yet. However, I know that if CONUS is recommending them, then they're good. They're good resources. And we are also going to be learning, as we're learning about Leif Erikson, we're going to be learning about Norse myths. So we lucked out, found another Daulaire book, Daulaire's Book of Norse Myths, just like the Greek myths book. You know, I think that everybody has heard of Daulaire's Greek myths, and I think that a lot of people don't realize that that's not the only one that they have. You know, there are so many, and again, with the beautiful illustrations. So we're going to be reading through this leisurely. You know, it's not like I'm going to make my kids sit, you know, for say 2 or 3 days and read through this entire thing. I'm going to gauge their interest and see how it goes. But I would like to read through at least some Norse myths with them, just to give them a feel for that time period, for their beliefs, and just for their entire worldview. Did I mention all of the activities that I wanted to? We're going to be going out in the woods, and the kids are going to become explorers. They're going to be writing down any observations that they find. They have to write down if they see evidence that people were there. They're going to be keeping fictional journals as if they're sailors out at sea, and in their journals they're going to have to record what the weather is like and how they're feeling, and how they felt when they first left. And when they find land, they have to describe it. And so that is going to be an ongoing project that I'm going to be doing with my kids as well. And so again, that's just about 4 weeks that I have planned out so far. But that is really the sort of thing that we're going to be doing in that together time. We will be doing 2 activities. So for example, they might paint a picture, and then actually what we're going to be learning the song Fire Down Below. And so maybe they'll learn the song Fire Down Below, they'll paint a picture, and we'll do our read aloud. And those are our unit study activities for the day. So then after the unit study activities are done, that is when we will be moving into what I call table time. And table time does not actually happen in a table, at a table in our house. Table time actually happens on the sofa or on the floor or wherever the kids are comfortable. There's going to be a motorcycle going past here. Living on a busy street is hard to record things. But anyway, so they just do it wherever they feel comfortable. So during table time, what they're doing is the 3 R's. Since the unit study activities are cross-curricular and multi-level, it's easier to do things all together. Now, sometimes the older kids might have something a little bit more intricate to do than the younger kids. I might give them something a little bit more basic, but they are still able to all learn together. Table time is the time that they are doing that individual learning, that they really are on different levels because they're different ages and they're at different stages of their learning. So that's when they'll be doing their spelling, and when they will be doing their grammar, and when they will be doing their math, and when they will be doing their silent reading. Now, I did not bring their math books here or their spelling or grammar because I actually have videos about them already, and I'll link them in the description box if you're interested in those. I will tell you, though, that we are using Natural Speller for spelling. We are using Daily Grams for grammar. For my 1st and 3rd grader, we are using Abeka Arithmetic. And then for all of my other kids, we are using CTC Math. And again, I do have videos on all of those things, and in the videos, I actually explain how we use them. So I will link those in the description box. Because again, I really just want to kind of stay focused on the unit study for today. Now, for the silent reading, I don't very often actually assign reading to my kids for silent reading because I want to give them the opportunity to read things that they're interested in. I want them to be able to pick out their own books and to just have that sense of like ownership of picking something. But every once in a while, I will choose silent reading books that will go with our unit study. And so that is actually what I'm doing for this unit study because there really were a lot of great books for the kids to read for silent reading. So one of my kids will be reading Before Columbus, the Leif Erikson Expedition. And this is by Landmark Books. And Beautiful Feet Books also uses Landmark Books. So it's going to be a good quality book. Here we have, for one of the younger kids, Magic Tree House, Viking Ships at Sunrise. And I know that a lot of people consider Magic Tree House books to be twaddle just because the sentence structure really isn't all that great. Sometimes there's sentence fragments and the writing isn't fantastic, but the research that goes into these and the way that the story is brought to life really holds kids' interest. So I don't write off Magic Tree House books at all. So on top of that one, for one of my kids who is a little bit older than this age, I have another Magic Tree House book, but it's a fact tracker about Vikings. And it's really meant to be a companion to this book. I think that most of my kids have read this book already, so I'm going to give this to one of my kids who has not yet. And one of my kids who has read this book is going to be reading this nonfiction companion to go with it. That is about the Vikings. And I expect that they're going to enjoy this just as much as they do the regular fictional Magic Tree House books. Here, another one that we have, this will probably be for my 8-year-old to read, is We the People, Leif Erikson. This will be the first year that she actually has to do silent reading every day. Last year, I read aloud with her. She would read one page, I would read one page. So now she's kind of graduating to that next level and she's going to be doing silent reading. So I wanted her first book to be something that was not going to be too intimidating. So that's what she's going to be reading, is We the People, Leif Erikson. And to tell you the truth, if she still wants me to read aloud one page and she reads the other page, that's fine with me, because you don't have to set your plans in stone. Go with the flow. That's the best thing that you can do. And so the last book that I have here for their silent reading is The Vikings. This is by Elizabeth Janeway. This is actually our book. It was on the list though for CONUS, but we actually already had it because 2 years ago when we did the early American history with Beautiful Feet books, this was one of the books that we read. So my son, who was not doing Beautiful Feet books with us, he was still in the littles when we were doing it. He did not read this. He's going to be reading it now. This is another great book. And I always say, if it is on the Beautiful Feet books list, you can gauge it as being a really worthy book of reading. So anyway, I'm hoping that this gave you a little bit of an idea of how we actually do things. Oh, and one other thing that I forgot to say, I was telling you about how we do, individual time. And during that time, I will take turns helping my kids one-on-one. That is the time that I help them with anything that they need help with when they are doing their 3 R's. And usually what I do is I will start with the oldest and just work my way down. And as I am working with one child, the other kids are usually doing things that they don't need my help with. Like they don't need my help with writing their spelling 3 times each. They don't need my help with silent reading. And there are times that my kids really don't need my help at all. Very often I will find that I wake up in the morning and my kids are already doing their 3 R's because they like to get the school day done early. So a lot of times the table time, a lot of it actually happens before we even start school. And what they usually do then is just save whatever they need me for. They save that for school, but they get everything else done a lot of times while I'm still sleeping. And I like to see that kind of motivation, even if it's just so that they can get done early. But anyway, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one over on Instagram because YouTube has disabled my comments. And I will leave that link in the description box below. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave that link in the description box as well. And I hope you have a great day.